What's up, people? I'm Shaggy, the Opinionated Hippie, and this is part 3 of my reviewing and talking about and ranting about and raving about the latest Frank Zappa release, Whisky A Go-Go 1968. I just finished listening to disc 3, so this is literally the freshest take I can give. This is a 3 CD box set, or more albums. I think it's like a 10 LP set, right? It's pretty big, or maybe 5 LP, 10 sides. I have the discs. Box set of a July 23rd live show, 1968, The Mothers of Invention. Awesome release. The first 2 discs I've already talked about in depth in the previous 2 videos. So this is the 3rd and final disc. We wrap up the show, and then we have 2 sort of bonus tracks at the end. So the 4 tracks that finish up the show, essentially the show so far has been, disc 1 was like the entirety of the first set. And then the Mothers took a break. Another artist came on, Alice Cooper in this case. Unfortunately, this box set is not like more discs where we get the Alice Cooper set. Don't even know if that was recorded. Then disc 2 is the middle set. After the middle set, Wildman Fisher comes on. Unfortunately, we don't get that. And this is the final set, I'm assuming. Yeah, because at the end of the night, it sounds like everybody goes home. Or at the end of the last track. So the first 3 tracks of this were on disc 2. We're now getting the final part of this. And there's 4 tracks that conclude the show. Really, it could just be 2 tracks, which is the first 2 tracks are just one long extended improvisation. But because one of them has been previously released in some form, it gets that name, even though it does go directly into the following track. And then the other track, with the actual song, at the end of the song, there's just a jam. And that could have literally been just 1 track, but it's 4. The first track is The Whip. This is an improv piece. We originally got The Whip on Meat Light, which was the Uncle Meat box set from like a decade ago now, I think. More than that. And it was just the second half of what we get here, which is the Frank Zappa guitar solo. And that was originally, when they released Meat Light, they had found a written copy, I think, of an alternate track listing for Uncle Meat, and The Whip was one of the songs on that alternate version. It is a guitar solo that is the second half of this improvisation. This improvisation starts off with this awesome dun 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 dun. This 4-beat phrase that just kind of keeps repeating itself. There's like dun 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 dun. I'm off. Something's off with my rhythm. But this 4-beat phrase, it just kind of repeats itself over and over. It has this almost like Rhythm of the Heat type simplicity, like this Native American type late night ritualist vibe, over which, under which, through which, around with. Don Preston gives us one of his awesome keyboard, laboratory, weird, patient, just kind of spooky little organ keyboard solos. I don't think it's an organ. I think it's just synths or whatever Preston's using to get all his like cool, funky sounds out. This goes on for about, how long is the entire track's like 10 minutes. This goes on for about 4.5 minutes before entropy kind of starts to set in. This dun, 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 4-beat phrase is like attacked by other percussion instruments, and then the drums eventually leave it, but the bass is keeping that dun 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 repeated. Then that eventually just stops, and then we get this whole other idea in which Frank Zappa starts a guitar solo, and it's this guitar solo, which is like the last 5 minutes of the track, which becomes The Whip from Meat Light. It's a great 10 minutes of improvisational music. Don Preston's part is fantastic. Frank's solo is fantastic. When we start to get towards the end of it, the band starts coming in a little more predominantly. You get the saxophone just screaming in the back. And then that goes right into the next track in real time. Towards the end of this track, they start to like go into what sounds like a much faster, much leaner version of the King Kong groove. And then they eventually go into the next track, which is called Whisky Chule, C-H Souffle. And this is just a great jam. Starts off with a Frank Zappa guitar solo. We get some saxophone playing in there. We get all these different like horn ideas, these little licks that the horn players are doing. And it almost seems to me like some of these might be other songs that I'm not familiar with. I have not read the liner notes for this. I haven't read anything about this. I'm listening to just the music and trying to like discern things that way. There might be songs referenced here that I don't know. This whole thing goes into a very 50s doo-wop type jazzy feel. And at one point, about midway through this 11 and a half minute jam, Frank starts inviting members of the audience to come on stage, but not just random members of the audience, the famous members of the audience that either he has spotted or that apparently are there. Members of the Turtles, this is 68. John Mayall is apparently there. Members of the Rolling Stones are apparently there. Elliot Ingber is in the crowd. He invites them onto the stage. He says, because we want to play Bebop Balula. Bebop Balula, I think that's what it's called. And then they start singing a song that's not the lyrics to Bebop Balula, but they're singing some other song. And then the rest of this like 5.5 minutes is just like what feel like a lot of bebop references that I just don't recognize. But it's fun, it's loose, there's sax solos, Frank's on guitar a lot, it's very chaotic. It feels like your typical Mother's sort of frenzy, only has a very awesome like 50s vibe to it. That eventually ends, and then Frank announces that they're going to play for the very first time ever, world premiere event, Brown Shoes Don't Make It. They do a pretty decent job of Brown Shoes Don't Make It. There are some of the transitions that I think are a little underwhelming, that don't quite have the that they have on either the studio version or for sure the later 79 version that you can hear on Tinseltown Rebellion. But it's still neat to hear Brown Shoes Don't Make It. And as soon as the song proper ends, Frank starts playing the opening riff again, ba-dum, ba-dum, ba-ba, and they just jam on that, and they go into what is called the fourth track, Brown Shoe Shuffle. The Brown Shoe Shuffle starts with Frank doing a guitar solo for a couple minutes, then a sax goes in there. That sax solo kind of just evolves into your typical Mother's jam, in which the rhythm section is just laying out this groove. Then you got a sax solo, and then other horn players are coming in. Then Frank comes in for a little while. Then, it's just that movement forward, but with like different instruments kind of hopping in and like being maybe the focus for like 4 bars or 8 bars before something else happens. Things get quiet for a while in the middle of this. There's a short little vocal jam. Things build back up again. Then to like a nice closing guitar-led jam where Frank's like hitting the effects. Things are getting a little crazier, a little more psyche, a little more Hendrixy. And then at the end, Frank thanks the audience, says, hey, thanks for coming out. If we ever get the money again, we'll record again. Hopefully you can make it when we do it. And then he does this, almost to like end the show, he does this like walk down, this like walk down, and he does that like 47 times or like 20 times or something. Like you think it's going to end, and then it just keeps going on, and he twists it and does inverted versions of it, and it's just all crazy. It's your typical, chaotic Frank ending. But yeah, it's stupid fantastic. So yeah, that's what you get on here. You get this final disc is about 40 minutes of music, over about 45 minutes of music. That part, there's 2 bonus tracks still. And all but like 7.5 of them are just improv and jamming and sax solos and guitar solos and all kinds of weird vocal stuff. And yeah, the Mothers just being pure Mothers. For the improv stuff is like 20, yeah, it's about more than 30 minutes long all combined when you put it together. Just, it's fantastic stuff. The 2 bonus tracks, an alternate mix of The Whip, the entire full-on version of it, not just the solo, a Frank Zappa mix of it. The mix is different. It's got a really, really long, slow fade in, where the volume's slowly getting turned up until we reach normal volume. And then at the end, he tacks on a cold ending. So the ending from a different song is tacked on to the end. On the Meat Light version, he tacked on some weird like Uncle Meat studio type stuff, percussion type stuff. On this one, he tacks on a cold ending from something else, because in real time, it doesn't have a cold ending. It goes into 12 more minutes of jamming, essentially. And then you get a Frank Zappa mono mix of Hungry Freaks Daddy from this show. So yeah, disc 3, is also fantastic. So far, after listening to the first 3 discs, I think my favorite of the 3 might be the first disc. I have a video about that. It's got a couple improvs on it, both of which different. It's got more songs on it, which I think fit the flow of this show really well. But I like all 3 of them. Like, in no way is this one of those box sets where, like, really one disc is going to get all the listens and the other one maybe every once in a while. Like, all 3 of these. And this is something where, like, it's kind of good the way it works out, because disc 1 is a set. Disc 2 is a set, but has part of another set. I think disc 3 is the only one where maybe it would have been cool had they put the entirety of the 3rd disc and put the bonus tracks at the end of disc 2, and then maybe moved those first 3 tracks, which the first 3 tracks of the final set, which are the last 3 tracks of disc 2, that might have been cool to maybe repurpose it like that, resequence it like that. And I think time-wise, it might work out, or maybe it doesn't. No, it does. That's 45, that's 55, it would fit. Just to have each set on its own CD. But that's the minorest of complaints. This is a great box set. I am very happy I got it. Yeah, I think it's well worth the money. This is one of the cheapest things they've released. It's essentially like under $40, so you're paying a little more than $10 per disc, I think, when all is said and done. And yeah, I recommend it. Like, I'm all for every single. I don't know what else is in the vault, obviously. I have a feeling there's not much else in there from the 60s, or we get it. But if there is, I'd love to hear it, because this is a fantastic, fantastic Frank Zappa release. But yeah, that's all. Where would I rank it? If I had to rank this, I'm going to drop an updated ranking, because there have been a lot of releases, posthumous. Try to pronounce everything phonetically, because I teach reading to kindergartners, and anyways, what should it be? Okay, what releases after he passed away, and I don't think I've updated that list, and there's been a lot of really, really, really good ones. But I think this is a top 10 release. Like, this is a top 10 release. Sound quality, there's not fluff. Like, the 2 bonus tracks, can't say I really need either one of them, but that's okay. You didn't need to put them on. The disc's already like 45 minutes without them, so they are really just bonus tracks. But yeah, this is a top 10 release. It's not number 1, maybe not 2 or 3, but I don't know. It's up there. I'm gonna have to look. I'm gonna have to consider. But this is fantastic stuff. That is a first take. Who knows? If I change my mind after listening to it 5 or 6 more times, I'll let somebody know. But yeah, thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, share, comment, do all those things. And if you're on the fence about getting this, get off the fence and get it, because it's great. All right, peace. Talk to you later.